calling the lawyers again because we do have already quite a bit of information on file based on some previous cases. So once I have a review of that, I guess we'll determine then if there is any need to contact the lawyers. I doubt there will be, but might provide some direction. Perhaps the same as what we've done in the past.
Something about it. The lawyers said stress right, every T crossed and every I dotted before you went in on anybody's property or did before the town moved at all. That was very strong. The lawyers were saying, and what they did suggest, and we did follow through to a certain amount, but as to what results we got, I don't know. They did suggest that you don't go to the property owner and say, look, your property's in a mess, get it up, get it cleaned up, everything cleaned up. Pick out certain areas, say to the individual, look, we noticed that the property, and I think we did write letters on that, and we don't have, I think we got Frank Moore to do a last or something like that. That's a banal move, but, instead of saying clean the whole thing up, it was do it in sections, and we did get some results, I think, out of it, didn't we?
We did, yes.
Yeah, that was what the lawyer was suggesting, and you'll find that in the files. It's frustrating being on that committee. It's frustrating.
But now we're getting another site down there.
Now we're getting another site on South Shore now.
Yeah, Main Street. Get James's brother sold that house down there. I think it's Young Sweet Apple. Yeah. He got my own truck down there. If anybody knows that, you got a check right up there.
Yeah.
And rocks under, you can walk right in another. He's got another old pickup here and another car. It's starting to get just the same as a dog. Anybody knows that drives on that side of the road.
So he's repairing vehicles, and I think
there's so many people talking at the same time. I'm sorry.
He's repairing vehicles, and I think there might be something in our rules, regulations that states that you cannot repair not to that extent. I can see changing a car, but he's actually doing garage work, mechanical garage work in front of his property. And I'm not too sure that we don't have something there that
I think there is, yes.
Limits that.
Yes.
So I'm in the process of drafting a letter to him because that was the conversation we had previously. You had brought it to my attention and to council's attention. So that'll be sent this week, and I guess that'll be our first stab at him. I've spoken to that gentleman on occasion before. He's very reasonable, so there's no reason to think that we can't find a resolution.
Councillor Paul, you were wanting to speak there? Oh, okay. Anything else arising from the minutes? Okay. It's a meeting held on the 18th of October. Not October, I'm sorry, August. Gone ahead a little bit. How many seconds? Second. Moved by Councillor Arnold and second by Councillor Kelly. The minutes be adopted as presented. All those in favor? Yep, all present. So this situation about that motorcycle, our insurance is looking after that.
Yeah, that's with our insurance, and the adjuster, I believe, has already been on site. So we've been playing telephone tag over the last couple of days. We've been unable to speak to one another, but I'm guessing he has some information for us. Yeah, so once I get that, I'll certainly pass it over.
Okay, and renovation for town hall. Talk to our engineers.
Yeah, I've spoken to Steve Babcock and asked him in the original specification he had prepared for us, which was quite good. It included vinyl siding as opposed to clapboard.
Yes.
So I've gone back to him this week and asked him if he could do an amendment to include the specification, the technical specification for clapboard. So once we have that, then we're able to go out to tender. On that note, I was speaking to the procurement office previous to COVID-19, the threshold was anything over an infrastructure project over $100,000 would have to go to public bid. However, with the new rules for procurement that came in as a result of COVID to try to make things a little simpler and easier, they've increased that to $262,400 as a new threshold. So based on our estimates, our preliminary estimates that the town hall would come in under that number, hopefully well and under, we're able to go to just a local closed call. So basically we could just ask local contractors if they wish to bid on it. So we wouldn't have large firms all over the province bidding. So I thought that was some good news as well. Keep the business in the community.
Okay. Anything else arising from your minutes? Okay, we have the minutes of the Public Works meeting, Young Council Chambers on the 19th of August.
Move for adoption.
Second. Moved by Councillor Kelly and second by Councillor Arnold that we approve the minutes as presented. All those in favor? Anything arising from those minutes or? Nothing?
When is we going to get that asphalt now?
Recommendation number one.
To 40,000.
Yeah.
Number one.
If it's accepted tonight, I can contact the contractors for us.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Where is this asphalt? It's on Future Street and down the South Shore.
And Campbell Office, of course.
Yeah. So no overlay.
Yes, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that was what I was intended anyway.
Yeah,
when we put it up for.
Right, we received prices for overlay, and the contractor who was low bid for the patching was also low bid for the overlay. So they're done in two separate pieces. So the patching is now done. So this will be the overlay piece.
We need a motion now to accept the recommendation. So the Public Works.
I move.
Moved by Councillor Arnold, second by Councillor Kelly. All those in favor? All present. Okay, move to Bruce. Deferred bids, anything of that?
There is one thing, Mr. Deputy Mayor, in the minutes, there was a motion that the street light committee would look at the request of a street light on Townview Drive. So we need a motion of council if it's the intent to install a street light up there.
Well, it's not a big distance, I'm going to tell you, from the street light. I think we're going to get ourselves in a lot of trouble with street lights close together. I was up and looked at it, looking at it, and who owns that property? Terry, Justin, not Justin, sorry, Paul Terry. It's in the middle of his land. It's only to the end of that street. There's only two houses up from that street light, and I don't think the street light should go there. And we're going to get people coming in saying the street light only got 2 or 3 houses. No, I want more than 2 or 3 houses. I don't know if the rest got anybody else was on that. It looks like the lot got that.
I thought we had a distance.
Yeah, I know that was.
On the books, the family says first would be this far apart. Unless we do that, then we're open for putting them anywhere.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be consistent.
Yeah, it should be consistent. I thought we did.
Well,
Years ago,
yes, 1 year I was in here, you put street lights everywhere. 1 year, I know that.
I think there's 1,000 feet, wasn't it?
Should we, what was the meaning look at it?
Yes.
Well, there's actually in the correspondence, there's another request for a street light. So perhaps we could get the committee together and take a look at those too. Yeah, because I know people looked at the previous one that was asked for up on Townview. The individuals went and looked, but not as a group. So it might be nice to get up there. In that time, I might be able to dig something out if there was ever something on the books.
Yeah, we could have it probably worth me to go off and have a look at it. Yeah, I can tell you, you start putting them too close together.
Yeah.
Why would the person say, I want one closer to my house now?
we don't have a set distance, and we're going to be doing that.
Anyway, fellow councillors, we'll have a little recess now. Our town clerk has gone.
Yes. That's like it's out there.
Oh.
Probably keep it up there.
What's the break to? Get a water break?
No, we're working on that, this station.
Okay, our town clerk's back and our town manager's back. So
Apologies.
we had a little recess. Okay. Yeah.
Where are we, Mr. Deputy Mayor? And the recommendations were accepted and passed. That's where we.
Yes, yeah.
And deferred business, we were discussing deferred business.
Yeah.
So I think if I can just recap, because I had to step out quickly as well. The street light, we would have Public Works or the Street Light Committee. Look at, say, okay, to take a look at that. And the one I mentioned, there was one in the upcoming correspondence as well. So perhaps do two of them at the same time. Of course.
Yeah, the permit street light committee is chair is Councillor Arnold, yours truly, Councillor Kelly, and ex officio the mayor.
There is a street light.
Yes. Yes.
No, Public Works.
Is it?
You pass it over to Public Works, that's all I know.
Is it a work street light committee?
No. But I know, Joanne, no part of this.
Oh, yes, permit / streetlight committee. So,
Permit starts by street light. Same committee.
yes, it is, yeah.
The street light, Public Works.
Yes. Is that what we're saying?
This is a separate committee, is all I'm asking.
The streetlight committee and permit committee is the same committee.
Same committee.
What I'm saying?
But not Public Works.
No.
No. It's Public Works / street light.
No,
Same
no,
committee.
no. Permit.
Not Public Works.
It's the same committee.
No.
Public Works is.
No.
So I'm not on the street light committee. So why did he ask me to go up and look at the street light?
You're on the street light committee. You're on both committees.
The permit and the street light committee.
Okay.
Yes. That's a bit of confusion.
It is confusing. Because he asked for a Public Works meeting to be done. He asked me to set up a Public Works meeting. And I'm not chair of that.
You were asked in this case, as a member of the streetlight committee, to take a dodge up to Townview Drive and have a look.
I've been asked before to set up a Public Works.
Oh, okay. For the same.
For street.
So we're all confused,
Yeah.
Councillor.
Confused to say.
Where are we now? We're saying that the streetlight committee is going to gather here and then
Yeah.
go as a group as opposed to individually.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
But some light on the scene.
Yes.
Okay, where are we now? Oh, in front of the
Number 5.
number 5, yes. Permit,
We're down there.
Justin,
We're in case number 4 yet?
yes. Yes.
Well, how about the Tower Spring one?
That's all on deferred. There's nothing new on that, is it?
No.
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 That again with our name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
On that there, yes,
Number 5 is a permit.
Yep.
And we met as a permit committee to discuss an application for Justin Marshall Garage by his house. And the recommendation, or I'm saying it's going to be a motion that we accept the recommendation to approve as presented.
I'll move.
Second.
Craig just moved.
Well, it's
I'll second.
okay, moved by Councilor Arnold and second by Councilor Paul, that we approve the permit for Justin Martin. All in favor? All present. Okay. Now, we're down to TM reports.
Okay, just a couple things. First off, we were approached by an individual here in town. It was probably last year, I guess it was months ago anyways, inquiring about putting some sort of memorial to their family in the way of a bench or gazebo or something of that nature. Through speaking with their economic development officer, they decided that a gazebo would be their preferred option, and they had talked about putting it down on the point when you go around the turn down by Saunders Cove, across from Stu Glover's house, where there's a picnic table currently, and there's a nice grassy area. Yes, that's right. Yeah. So they've asked if it would be something we consider, and they have some money together to do that. We went out and got an estimate on what the materials would cost if we were to have our rec workers build it. They could make pretty quick work of that. So I was wondering if, I guess there's no need of going back to them with the estimate on what it would cost if council doesn't wish to have it there. So I'm asking what council's thoughts are about having a gazebo put there. Probably have a little placard or something in there recognizing the individual who's in memorial of, no different than the benches and whatnot. But wondering what council's thoughts were on that.
I'm going to go ahead with the gazebo. Yesterday, on behalf of the families.
I'll second.
Yeah. It's the move by Councilor Paul that we provide workers to build a gazebo.
So just so I'm clear, so if the family comes up with the amount of money needed for the materials, our rec workers would construct the place.
Yes, I can say that part of the motion.
Yes.
Can we already make that part of the motion?
I will.
Okay. I think I'd like to speak to the motion before we vote. I think we're going to be, see, 90 rounds is a good gesture. We've got to be careful. Because there's people coming up all over the United States saying they'd like to do this for a family, like that for a family. So I think myself, we have to set some guidelines there as to exactly where we're going to allow these to be. Because the next thing you'll have all over the place. It's wonderful. No, it's not.
But the only thing, they would have to be with council's approval, each and every one, right? So if we did that,
once you get into that
except pressure, yeah.
That one, then
Right, it's everywhere.
say no.
Yeah.
Because this is a good area for it.
Yes.
You could have one come in that's not a good area.
Yes. Now,
You gotta be careful where you put them.
maybe we can limit it and say
Grassy. Grass area, somewhere like that.
green space.
Down the front garden.
Oh. Didn't Johnny Marsh come up with something that she on the front? Where that work?
That's a dogberry tree, which is there, and a bench, which is going to be placed, or it may have been placed today. So that's taken care of.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyway, it's been moved by Councilor Paul and seconded by Councilor Kelly that we approve the site and the labor to construct this gazebo down in Saunders Cove across from the late Mr. Stuart Glover's place.
Understand that our guys are going to do it.
Yes.
You don't want somebody slapped there to slap.
No.
Right, don't break.
It'll be in the same style as the Brookside and the larger gazebo. Obviously not the same scale, but same quality and look. Yeah.
Are we ready for the question? All those in favor? All present?
Okay, next up, when the Heritage Committee met down at the old mill, must have been, I guess, a couple of weeks ago now, Councillor Perry was there, the mayor was there. We had talked about there's an overhang on the rear of the old mill. It looks as though one of the support beams had been knocked down. It's been missing for all my memory. But we had talked about now that we're going to fence that, and of course, encourage people to visit it and whatnot, and create a safe space. We had talked about perhaps doing something to support beam to reinsert where the old one had gone. Since then, we've acquired an I-beam out of an old house, a very heavy-duty iron I-beam, one that would be sufficient for there. And I've spoken to Public Works about it, and they said that they could make they could rig it up so it could just be placed in there and bolted on and all good. I'm just wondering what council's thoughts are on that, given the fact we'd have to create a safe space for our workers to do that. And all of those things we'd have to do, which would be normal, but just wondering if there's any appetite to do it, because it would have to be done before the old mill's fenced. And I guess Councillor Perry is probably the only one really familiar with what I'm talking about, but I don't know if you have any questions about it. I don't know how well I explained it, but there is a part on the back that's missing a support, basically. Yeah.
Because they got it done down there, now you can go down and drive it around.
Yeah.
Now we got a road done down there. I know it's that other day, when I was down there over.
Yeah.
The I-beam that's being went up to Carol's.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that suitable?
That it is, yeah.
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 We don't need a motion for that, do we? We don't need a motion for that to do that.
Okay. consensus is okay?
I haven't got a problem with it.
Yeah, safety,
It
I
doesn't
think,
have to be done.
So it's better to
It's better to do it. It doesn't have to be done. It's better to do
for
it.
safety reasons, yeah. Okay. Mr.
All
Dean?
good. Next up, I was copied on an email, or given a copy of an email from the deputy fire chief to a person in Central Health in Grand Falls office, and then followed up today by the fire chief. Every so often, perhaps every 6 months or so, Central Health and all the regional health authorities get rid of ambulances that have reached a certain period. So there's a 10-year lifespan or a 500,000 kilometer limit. So once they hit one of those thresholds, they're then offered up to municipalities who may use them for fire protection or whatever the need may be. So I called and I was speaking to the person in Central Health today. The vehicle that's coming up, that's available now, has significant engine issues, so I told him we're not interested. And he said there's 2 more coming up in the fall, one of which is a 4x4 and is in pretty decent shape. It's 10 years old. It didn't reach the 500,000 kilometers, but it's 10 years old. It's still in relatively good shape. We would get that for $1. Of course, we would be responsible to take off all the stickers and make sure all the ambulance markings are off it, and we'd have to insure it and license it. But other than that, we'd get the vehicle for $1. So Fire Chief Ken had asked if it were possible for us to consider that. It would have to be done with council's permission, with the purpose of having that as an extra vehicle for the jobs if we were to go and have to respond to accidents and incidents in the cottage areas, Northwest Arm and Mackles and whatnot. It would just be another vehicle, and they could park it in our back shed, a large shed, so there's room to store it inside. I was thinking worst case scenario, if we were to get this vehicle, it would be $1, which is basically it's free. And if there were significant issues, if we come to find out it takes $12,000 to get on the road, we could bring it down to our fire training grounds if we had to. But it would kind of be take a shot at it. And if we do end up with something that's sensible, it may be a vehicle we may get a few years out of and very little maintenance or service. So just want to put that out for consideration. It's $1. Well, that's the thing. It's a bit of an unknown, but again, you're getting it for free, and it is a vehicle that's 10 years old. However, those ambulances are maintained quite regularly from. What are you gonna do?
It's been moved by Councillor Lynch and second by Councillor Kelly. All those in favour? By all. Okay.
Okay, the paving. I received a call from Wilf Maloney in Municipal Affairs Environment Office today. Wilf has some hesitations about us. So our paving's ready to go to tender. But he has some hesitations based on the time frames now in order to get that out and have the tender called for a couple of weeks. And then by the time they mobilize, and I know what many of you are thinking, September 30th is the drop dead date for doing asphalt in the province if you're doing soft base. Unless you're doing overlay, it's a bit different. But to do soft base and then the second level, they have a cutoff on September 30th. They usually grant an extra 2 weeks if the weather is fine, but of course we don't know. If the weather's like it is today, we probably wouldn't get any extra time. So his fear, and to be honest with you, I kind of share it as well, and from speaking to DMG, our engineers, they share it, is that we could get half the job done, get the first layer down, have to leave it for the winter with salt and plows going over and all that kind of stuff, and then do the second layer in the spring. And it's done, but it's not ideal. So what we could do is allow the tender to go out and have it for a start in June. So we get a price now. There may have to be a contingency in there that if asphalt prices go up a little bit, their prices could adjust, but their labor and all those other things would remain the same, and we could start on June 30th or soon thereafter.
That's your feeling, huh?
So the only thing that you do here, the only thing that would change would be the cost. That could change would be the cost of the asphalt itself.
Right. Now, so there's that way, or we can go out for tender next year if you think the prices are going to be lower. And some speculation is it may be, but who knows? Oil prices could go through the roof and the asphalt shoot up. So I think his thought, and I can't speak for DMG, but from speaking to Doug Short today, the guy we've been dealing with, his opinion is that it may be better to wait as opposed to doing half the job now and getting caught and having to do the other half in the spring.
What would stop the government from not giving us the funds next year?
If we go to tender and support, anything's
You
possible.
said you go to tender when? Now?
We can go to tender now if you want. You just have the job started in June.
You know, it's very easy for him to cancel that funding. I mean, new premier right now, and he's going to be covering work, or you could not believe.
Yeah, there's also an election coming, so I can't imagine going to.
Well, generally speaking, they don't do that. Generally speaking, most of the funds that are allocated, they don't call back.
Right.
Those lawyers are going to have bad paper.
No.
On the file. We had that one file before.
Yes, yeah.
Remember all of those, how they shot from Thurman when they got here, it was cold.
Yeah.
They go up on Alexander now and see what happened to it. Practical in 1 year.
Right.
So you got to be careful of that.
Right. And this year is a split three race also. There's 33 and a third from the Fed, so I don't see them hauling that out. So 33, 33, 33, right? So.
I moved a motion that we delay the tender to June of next year. Go to tender and have it done in June.
Start.
So tender now, get tender out,
Now, and
get tender approved.
have it done in June.
With clause in here, the cost clause in here that they come back and say we want more money now.
The only way, there's a clause that will be put in there. The only way they can get more is if the price of asphalt, liquid asphalt goes up. So if it goes up like 10 cents a ton, they can adjust their price 10 cents a ton on the asphalt, not on the
So
liquid.
lower constantly on cost of asphalt, that's all you got for the next.
According to.
Labor and fuel and things that would not affect the same.
Okay, then motion made and second the motion. Craig Arnold. Second the motion. Question? All those in favor? Thank you.
And finally, just as an FYI, I've already been speaking to the mayor and deputy mayor. On Friday afternoon this week, there's a Liberal government caucus retreat over on the West Coast. And as the MHAs and ministers are going across, there's two ministers, Minister Bennett, who's the new Minister of Municipal Affairs and Environment, and Minister Bragg, who's a current TW Minister and was Municipal Affairs, asked to have a meeting with the mayor and deputy mayor just to have just a friendly chat type of thing. So they asked if they could do that in the afternoon. So, like I said, I've already let the mayor and deputy mayor know. It's just an informal thing, but I guess it'd be nice to have a face-to-face with the new minister. Yeah, he will. So I've arranged. Yeah, so that's all worked out. And I've sent off an agenda to the ministers, some of the things we'd like to talk about, like Route 310 through the community, the deplorable state. So the Minister of Transportation, it'd be nice to talk to him about that. The intersection. There's another one. Give an FYI of the community market and our plans for that, and finally the fire hall, just to have that conversation as well. So yeah, and of course if there's any other suggestions we could add it, but I didn't want to make a big long list. And again, it's just to allow them to wrap their heads around it before they come out, so we don't catch them off guard. So.
And that's for information purposes. Okay, Councilor Bond.
Just one question, Willow Ridge Road over there, we're gonna pay that? Off to the left there, there's another road with two houses in there. We're not gonna pay that?
That's not a road, it's a driveway.
Okay, it's not a road driveway, but yet we maintain it and we plow it winter nights.
I don't know if we maintain it, we definitely probably.
We plow it winter, okay. Sheriff's Point down there, there's three houses down there, and they pay for their own snow clearing, they pay for their own garbage collection and everything else, so what's the difference in the two? The three houses down there,
Should we clean there, though?
There's
Nothing to do, we shouldn't be clearing there or something.
well, there wasn't a Washington Council to clear one at one point, was there?
She's not since I've been here.
Oh, I can't remember. Who authorized doing it, or why did it
They
authorize?
back in Kill back in the start.
Okay. So now then, that's what I'm saying, when the boys at Stroud Point would hunt down there in the other two houses, then we either gotta stop doing that one, or we gotta start doing that one. Yes or no? Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, I don't know why it was being done either. I mean, we never ever did file for.
Well, they have to be notified that you're gonna have to pound their own driveway. Or either that, you're gonna have to bring it up to standard and count the road.
But wasn't there a sign up there, private drive?
Unless it's a very big convenience for our soul clearers. The boys going up the soul clear, it might be, it might be an inconvenience to not follow that. That might be part of their, I don't know. What would that be? I don't know. I'm just saying.
We do have snow clearing regulations, so I'm not sure if in that there's any reference to Willow Ridge Road, it might be interesting for us to revisit our, we haven't looked at our snow clearing regulations for some time. Every now and again we would review them and make some necessary changes. So maybe it's and I suggest that be Public Works. Councillor Kelly, we'll have to look at those. Regulations.
This is not the street located.
We should probably have a meeting separate.
But have to be probably worse. The fellows on the street committee didn't do their job. They had passed all on.
We'll get consensus if that's council's wish. Our Public Works superintendent, of course, is on the Public Works committee, so he'll be able to speak to exactly what streets are done and what have you.
Yeah.
So do you get back to us on this meeting?
Yes, why not?
There's other places that are being done.
We looked at some last year. Remember that we thought were easy, resolutions, and we all had, we ended up getting the information on them, and past practices and things have been done for decades, and then so it's not always as I know it seems pretty black and white, but it's not always such, right?
So that's a consensus, is it?
Public Works and report back to council's next meeting.
Okay. Councillor Perry?
Just want to show this out, maybe just something to think about. Question first, do we collect any kind of reimbursement through insurance for our JAWS calls?
Yes.
We do it. So any JAWS call that we go on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I may have spoken out of turn. We get money from the government, from Fire Emergency Services.
Yeah.
For our JAWS call-outs.
Okay.
Like an individual, I went up on the highway and had an accident today. And the Jaws had to come up at the end of the day to the fire department, get the insurance to pay for their call.
They should. County would get it.
And I would get it, but the fire department.
There is.
The only money that comes in here that I'm aware of that we receive here in this office is money from Fire and Emergency Services. They have like an amount per call, and they look at the number of kilometers. There's a form that the fire department has to fill out. We do get money. Maybe that's all inclusive. I don't know, but we can certainly look to see if you.
Because they collect the money from the insurance and pay it.
I don't know how that works, Councillor, but we can look to see how that works. But I know they do recover money for their JAWS call-outs.
You're wondering if it was my accident, if my insurance would pay.
Yes.
I believe they will. I believe they will if a claim ever went in. Okay. I'm not sure, but I'm not quite sure, really sure.
Councillor Lynch, you read the.
Well, I want to answer, but I don't want to. What are we doing with arenas?
Pam, our economic development officer, has a meeting. She has a hockey meeting tonight. I think that's with her hockey hat, not so much as her town employee hat. But there's an upcoming arena meeting next week. The last one we had, Jack Lee of H&L was on it, and he kind of led the meeting, and it didn't prove as useful as we had hoped. So I think the meeting they're having this time around is without Hockey and L. So we'll have a more open discussion about other user groups like figure skating and rec hockey and whatnot.
Well, I'm not saying there's no hockey.
Oh, no, yeah. Everything has been changed.
How are we going to do it? And
what I tell you today will probably be changed by next Tuesday. So, like this week, the province came up with a change to dressing rooms that you now are permitted to use dressing rooms.
Hockey do?
No, this is just general government regulations. But H&L is still of the mind that they're not going to use the dressing room. So, if we were to accept the province's regulations, that would be our minimum. Now, if hockey want to go above and beyond and say, no, we don't want to use hockey dressing rooms, or dressing rooms, I should say, that would be their decision. But we would have to make a decision whether we want to open dressing rooms. The issue will be with anything that we do is there's like a 15-minute break in between two user groups coming in, and every surface is not just sweep up the dressing room, is go in and basically sanitize everything, including the washroom that's in each dressing room, plus the benches and everything. Like it's quite a bit.
I know. It's crazy.
So from like Pam has reached out and spoke to the user groups. They're really unsure because they don't know what the deal is. How many people can we have on the ice? That seems to be changing, and there's some contradictions between H&L and the province and everything else. So things are just all over the place. So hopefully in the next few days we'll have a little bit more of an idea of what. It all depends who you ask on what day, and it's really.
Well, I got aren't even be allowed to play games.
Not until they go into the next level, which, from what I understand, the last conversation I had won't be until the new year sometime, if everything goes perfectly as planned.
You got games, you're not going to have kids out there.
Can we look at one of towns similar to this size, like Lewisburg, whatever, 28 Lewisburg, whatever, and down the shore there, what they're going to do, and maybe look at.
Well, so next week the arena meeting we're having is going to be with all the arena operators across across Newfoundland, sorry. So we should have an idea there. But Pam's always in contact with, whether it be Springdale or Gander or other communities where she has that network of people. And, outside like Gander, I think is forging ahead, but Gander it's not a town similar size, so it's not a good one to compare to.
They could have a house league playing it.
That's right.
Well, they must come up with a system as one set of rules for all, right? Individual.
And that's what we're going to have to do as town, a return to play guide. We're going to pass to hockey, pass to rec, pass to ice hockey, ice skating, and it will say all the restrictions. So you can use dressing rooms, you can have 100 people on the ice, you can have 20 in the stands, whatever all those things are. So we're going to have to come to some sort of agreement based on the provincial regulations and our capability as a council and staff to follow them.
That's our usual group set.
Well,
like red hockey and curling and figure skating and modern hockey, but
they're more asking questions and giving answers because they don't know, right? They don't know because they don't know if the restrictions are going to be so great. Like figure skating, I believe Pam was speaking to one of them today, and they said, well, we have to know some of our larger groups. If we can only have, and I'm just using these numbers aren't what the actual numbers are, but just say if you can only have 30 skaters on the ice at one time, and they have a group of 50, now all of a sudden they need 2 hours of ice time to service that one group. So now that's more money. So now they got to put registrations up. Now, on top of that, they're going to have a 30% decline, which is estimated right across the board. So you're going to have to put it up even more. Or you're going to have to charge so much money that people, the ones who are interested, can no longer afford it. So it's far from a simple answer, right?
Well, so you have to make $400 information.
Right.
No need to make the decision now. No, he's not going on in November.
No.
Why rush into make the decision?
So we know no more now.
Where we were.
Yeah.
That was a short answer. Yeah.
I should have known. How's it, Kelly? Anything you got?
No.
That's Arnold? No. Only thing that I got really is the highway crosswalks, which was cool. On the main road going down. They're not done yet, are they? No.
So I think we had this chat earlier. I think last year they were done late because basically it's whenever the paint crew, the provincial government has a paint crew that I guess works in the region. So as it comes across the island or goes through our region, they would do the spots in each town. Mm-hmm. So I can touch base with. I haven't spoken to Dave Weineber in the regional office in some time now with regards to things being done in town. So I can touch base with him tomorrow and ask if there's an estimated time. I assume they got it done prior to school opening last year. I would hope they would do it again.
Yeah, so
it would be a council decision.
Anyway,
consensus, I guess. Then I manager would make contact.
Would make contact. Consensus. Everybody agree with that? Very well. Okay. Correspondence. Request to purchase the property.
5-7 Main Street.
Okay, yes. Looks like we got approval.
Yeah, so before we proceeded, this was just yet another thing. We had another box to check. So this is the letter that came out from then Minister Derek Bragg saying basically, as a municipality, we need authority or permission from the minister to purchase assets that aren't deemed necessary to the town, which this wouldn't be a necessity as such. So anyways, but everything is fine and they didn't require anything else from us.
Okay. And the next one is the monthly report, RCMP. Peruse through that. Information services. The kids smart. The next one, isn't it? Yes. Program. contributor each year to that?
This is for the radio fund that they have.
Oh,
Yes, the donation to that.
We usually get the local, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, we do this one,
Oh, do we?
and there's another that they do for the local.
Okay.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's two throughout the year.
What do we usually get for this one?
$100 was what we did.
I move.
Moved by Councillor Kelly,
Second.
second by Councillor Arnold. All those in favor? Carried. Now, the next one is from Gordon. Water meetings here, or this. I made a motion that public works does look at that before I make a recommendation by the council. Why is this meeting of council?
What's that? What's that?
Make a
Right.
The orders are asking for a hook up to water and sewer.
We don't need a motion for that. We did discuss that earlier before the meeting.
So we can vote on tonight,
That we could go up and have a look at it
yeah.
Yeah.
and bring it back to council again.
What's the recommendation from public works?
Well, no,
We don't know yet.
We have to look at the project from the launch slope. If they were having any problems, we got to find out.
That's what it says. Just better give it from the ordinance, not make it one that public works is going to look at.
Same thing.
That's fine.
That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Okay, Councillor Bob. Somebody second that motion? Councillor Perry. All right, all those in favor, don't use away. All right, go on. Now, another one here about a street light on Riverview.
So this is the one I mentioned that was upcoming, so perhaps we could have a look at this when we look at the one on Townsview.
Yes.
I'll go back and add it in.
Okay. That's it. Check register. Somebody second?
Are we going to set the meetings on the street light committee to have a look at that sometime?
Moved by Sandra.
Need to pick some spots.
Yeah.
The only thing with the streetlight committee, it'd be nice, I think we talked about this before, it's nice to go up actually when it's dark,
Yes,
right?
I'll see.
So you can see what the coverage of the current light is.
Well, don't be dark till before a council meeting.
You guys got any plans for tonight?
Maybe we should make all our decisions in the dark.
So what do you want to do? What do you want to go and have a look at it?
In the dark, we want to have a meeting at say 8 o'clock in the evening. It was dark 8 o'clock.
Yes, darling.
I haven't got a problem with it. I will do it tonight, Don. Say, what's the day? Wednesday. Well, but tomorrow evening.
Well, Craig Arnold is the chair of that.
Tomorrow night, 8:30 is good for me.
Can I, if I may, if it isn't raining, I can't see out the window there now, but
It was nice.
it's,
Good night.
we could do it and not have to call together a separate meeting, if it's fine with everyone else, just to get it done. So we can order after 8 now, so, pardon me?
Will you find the street light?
If we one lit, we will.
Okay, so you guys will take care of that after we're done.
Like I tell you, you don't need to be in the dark to see this. Never put the street lights out and hold together. Tell you that. You don't have to be in the dark. That one up there, I can tell you, if we put another one there, you're going to get it all over town. Listen, there's only 2 houses separated the street light.
Yeah.
Now I want the street light. Why wouldn't you?
We have to sit down some rules.
Mr. Deputy Mayor, we have a motion. I have it recorded, but we sort of backtracked a little bit. Our motion, Councillor Lynch and Councillor Perry made a motion to accept the check register.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. All those in favor? Carried by all present.
Okay, all right.
Would you rather do than that?
So don't make noise, don't make noise. All I'm saying is that
Oh, no,
we got to check the distance of some of the lights in town to give us an idea of us, right?
Now, what about the date for the public works committee?
I'm trying to do today is Riverside and Craig. Craig looks at every 1 o'clock when you Craig.
It's not possible.
What about 1 o'clock on Tuesday, next Tuesday?
Say what date?
Okay, 1 o'clock next Tuesday. Councillor.
Do we have someone there from the Lawrence Slump too, there at that, get your information? Someone must be in charge of making something, shut down, sir.
Yeah.
Ryan Land used to look after that.
Yeah.
Ryan Land used to look after
Yeah, but Brad's
I can get in touch with Eileen pretty easily. So
Yeah.
she probably.
We'll see what we can find on file here as well.
Yeah.
Now, there's, and the smoke hearing one as well, right?
There's no exemptions. Somebody move. The meeting adjourned. Second. Moved by Councillor Kelly and second by Councillor Hill. All in favor? Very well.